So, Amazon Prime just went and dropped the very first image from its live-action God of War series. And wow, the internet just exploded. Instantly. A few fans were hyped for sure, but a whole lot more felt like, well, like it totally missed the mark. So yeah, let's get into it.
Man, that line. That's Kratos talking to Atreus, right? It just perfectly sets the tone of the game, you know? That discipline, that focus, that brutal world. The new show has to capture that feeling. And believe me, the bar is incredibly high.
All right, here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at the photo itself. Then, we'll dive into that crazy fan backlash. After that, we'll ask if there's maybe a glimmer of hope. And finally, we'll get to what might be the real question this whole thing brings up. First up, the first look. Let's talk about those high hopes for a new realm. It all started with just one picture, dropped on a fan base that was holding its breath.
So the official X account for the show is what dropped this photo. And it's a scene you'll totally recognize if you've played the game. It's that early moment where Kratos is teaching his son, Atreus, how to hunt. For a lot of people, this was it. The moment we'd all been waiting for.
Okay, but you gotta understand the pressure here. The 2018 game and Ragnarok 2, they're not just games. Fans, critics, everyone, they talk about these titles as actual art. I mean, the story, the visuals, it's all at another level. So the TV series has this, almost impossible job of living up to that legacy.
And that brings us to our next section, the fan backlash. Because when you hold something in that high regard, you get a Spartan-sized divide. And that's exactly what happened.
And you really saw that divide play out online. You had a few positive comments, people saying, hey, it looks like they're really sticking to the source material. But honestly, they were just drowned out by this huge wave of skepticism. And the criticisms were, well, they were sharp, they were creative, and they just spread like wildfire.
This was probably one of the most common ones you saw everywhere. Dollar Tree Kratos. People were basically saying the whole thing just looked cheap, and that the actor, Ryan Hurst, just didn't have that, that godlike muscle you expect from Kratos.
And then there was this. This gets at another huge complaint. People felt like it just didn't have that big budget Amazon Prime production value. It felt more like a really good photo from a fan convention, not a still from an actual show.
This one really hits hard. The idea that it looked so off, so uncanny, that if you saw it anywhere else, you'd think it was just some mediocre AI-generated image. I mean, that is a pretty brutal review for your big first reveal.
So, if you boil it all down, the backlash really focused on a few key things, right? It looked cheap, the actor's physique wasn't quite there for some people, a lot of folks thought he was wearing a bald cap, and the whole thing just felt photoshopped or uncanny. It got compared to everything from cosplay to, get this, an SNL sketch. Ouch. Okay, but is it really that bad? Or is there maybe another way to look at all this? Let's talk about a potential glimmer of hope here, with some context and comparisons. So this idea popped up over on Reddit, and it's a good one. What if this isn't even a shot from the show? What if it's just a promotional photo shoot done purely for PR and marketing? I mean, if that's the case, it could change the whole conversation.
And hey, there's a history of this kind of thing. Do you remember the very first look we got of Henry Cavill as Geralt in The Witcher? It was just this quick costume test, and fans hated it. They said the wig was awful, the look was just weird. But then the show came out and the final look was way, way better. So it's happened before.
But, on the other hand, this huge backlash isn't just something that always happens. Take a look at the upcoming Legend of Zelda movie. Fans are just as protective of that series, maybe even more so, but the reaction to the first set photos has been pretty positive. It really just goes to show you, first impressions matter a lot.
But as everyone was arguing about the photo itself, a much bigger, more fundamental question started to come up, one that has absolutely nothing to do with costumes or muscles or bald caps.
What if the real issue isn't the look at all? What if all this frustration over a single image is just a symptom of a much, much deeper concern about the story the show is actually planning to tell? Okay, so here's a fun fact that might actually blow your mind. The 2018 God of War game, it's not the first game, not even close. It's actually the 8th game in the series. It's not a reboot, it's a continuation of a very long story. Think about that. By starting with the 2018 game, the show is basically jumping over 7 entire games.
That's the whole Greek saga, the story that establishes who Kratos is, what he did, and what he's desperately running away from.
I mean, Kratos says it himself in the game, right? I am a god, boy, from another land far from here. His past isn't just some trivia you can look up on a wiki. It is the entire foundation for his character in this new Norse story.
So why is this such a big deal? Well, because his entire motivation as a father is shaped by that violent past. I'm talking, he killed most of the Greek gods. He literally tore down Olympus. And his deepest, darkest fear is that his son, Atreus, is going to become just like him. That context, it's everything.
And that's the real question fans started asking. Why? Why would you start a character's story at what is basically the beginning of his final chapter? Yeah, sure, they can use flashbacks, but can that really do justice to the sheer weight of all that history?
Now, the most likely answer? It's probably because the 2018 game is when the series got, well, prestigious. It went from being this incredible but mostly pure action series to something that was winning all these awards for its drama and storytelling. Kind of like what happened with The Last of Us. It's the version of God of War with the most mainstream artistic appeal.
And that leaves us with this final thought. Forget the debates about costumes and casting for a second. The real challenge for this God of War series is all about the narrative. Can you truly succeed? Can you capture the full weight of a character's journey when you start the story right as the credits are basically rolling on his past? We're just gonna have to wait and see.